Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying a moment in your head? Maybe an exchange of words that felt colder than usual, or an unspoken tension that left you with a tightness in your chest. It happens to many of us, no matter how old we are. This unsettling sense that the person we love might be drifting away emotionally. We're here because that fear is as real at 60 or 70 as it was in our 20s. The good news is, by understanding some of the early signs, we can gain clarity about what's happening and find healthier ways to respond. Even if you've been together for decades, love doesn't operate on a schedule. Sometimes it evolves in ways we don't recognize, and other times it fades without a grand announcement. When you suspect someone is pulling away, be it a partner you've spent half your life with, or a companion you connected with more recently, it can stir all sorts of emotions: denial, hurt, confusion, or even anger. And for those of us in our later years, the concern can feel deeper, because we're often balancing health issues, life transitions, or that nagging thought that there isn't as much time left for second chances. But here's the comforting truth. Noticing the signs early doesn't have to be a sentence to heartbreak. It can be an invitation to address problems honestly, seek understanding, and possibly rebuild the bond if both people are willing. Or it may guide you to let go gracefully, when you realize your energy is better spent on self-care and new beginnings. Ultimately, recognizing these signs gives you a sense of agency over your emotional world, at a stage in life when many things feel beyond control. Let's walk through the first two signs that someone may be quietly withdrawing their love. The first one might not sound dramatic, but it's often more telling than we realize. It's when you notice a disheartening shift in the way they communicate, particularly with their tone and the words they choose. Have you ever had a friend or partner whose warmth seemed to vanish into abrupt sentences, forced pleasantries, or a suspicious politeness that feels more like distance? That subtle but unmistakable chill can reveal more than an occasional bad mood. It can signal the protective armor someone puts on when they no longer feel invested in nurturing emotional closeness. Sometimes this change in communication style looks like a person who used to engage in lively conversation, asking you how your day was, swapping memories of decades past, suddenly becoming closed off. Maybe their replies grow shorter, their interest in your stories fades, or they focus on your flaws rather than your qualities. If you bring up future plans, they respond with vague words like maybe or we'll see, sidestepping any genuine commitment. The result isn't always a loud argument. It's an uneasy quiet where you sense their eagerness to move the conversation along and exit. If you gently ask, "Is something bothering you? Did I do something?" and they dismiss your concerns or change the subject, that can confirm the feeling in your gut. They're quietly detaching themselves from you, piece by piece. The second early sign often reveals itself in the constant lack of presence, physically or emotionally, when you spend time together. Have you ever gone out to a shared meal only to find the other person glued to their phone, checking messages or scrolling aimlessly as if you weren't there? Or perhaps you're sitting in the living room and they're in the same space but a million miles away in terms of engagement. You can feel it in the sighs they let out, or the way they keep glancing at the clock or flipping channels on the TV. Their mind is elsewhere, their heart checked out, and the difference stings like a minor rejection each time. In a long-standing relationship, especially if you've lived under the same roof for years, this might manifest in the other person developing new routines that exclude you. Maybe they're scheduling walks without inviting you along, or planning visits with friends or family without consulting you first. Or perhaps they linger longer at the grocery store or the mailbox, almost as if they're finding ways to be out of the house. When you bring it up, they might say something like, "I just need some air," or "You're overthinking this." But the abrupt changes in their day-to-day habits can speak volumes about where their heart now resides. Recognizing these two signs isn't about beating yourself up or accusing your loved one harshly. It's about acknowledging the reality of what's unfolding. Sometimes it helps to recall a time when the closeness was clearly there. Maybe they would light up when you walked in a room, or they'd seek reasons to spend an afternoon strolling through the park. Compare that with how they act now. If the contrast is stark, it may be your signal to initiate an honest conversation. Approaching it calmly might feel vulnerable, especially if part of you worries it's too late to fix things. But remember, vulnerability is often the key that unlocks deeper truths and healing, even in relationships that have weathered decades. The shift in communication and the lack of presence are powerful indicators that love might be drifting. However, it doesn't automatically mean the relationship is doomed. Sometimes the other person is dealing with personal stress or a medical worry they haven't shared with you yet. Other times, your own behavior might have unintentionally pushed them away. By naming the problem, you give yourself and your partner the chance to address it together, or to part ways with compassion if that's the healthiest option. After all, no matter your age, you deserve connections that feel supportive, genuine, and fulfilling. If these early signs resonate with you, or if they're stirring memories you wish weren't so familiar, take heart. You're not alone, and you're not helpless. Now that we've examined these first hints of emotional distance, it's time to explore more signs that can further clarify what's happening in your relationship. It can be unsettling to notice how someone you care about has shifted from openness to distance. Perhaps you've been replaying conversations or lack thereof in your mind, wondering if you're imagining things or if there really has been a change in the tone of their voice or their willingness to sit quietly with you. It's natural to feel on edge, caught between wanting to address the problem head-on and fearing that your suspicions might be true. But recognizing early signs of emotional withdrawal is the first step in deciding how best to respond. For your own peace of mind and, if possible, the health of the relationship. Now let's dive into 2 more signs that someone could be pulling away emotionally, even if their everyday behavior looks normal at first glance. The third sign often emerges when they seem to stop considering your feelings or preferences in decisions big and small. At one time, maybe they would ask you what you wanted for dinner, or check if you felt like going out for a drive, or consult you about changes around the house. Lately, it's as if they've started living in their own bubble, making choices that affect you without any attempt to collaborate. This shift can appear subtle. Picture it. You come home from a grocery run and notice that the living room furniture has been completely rearranged. Or you find out they booked a weekend trip without mentioning it to you first, leaving you feeling like an afterthought in the life you used to share. When you bring it up, "Why didn't you tell me?" they might respond with a shrug or a dismissive remark. "I just felt like it. I didn't think it mattered to you." That can sting because it implies your opinions or comfort no longer register as something they're eager to protect or honor. You might sense this disregard creeping into emotional territory as well, like not checking in on you when they know you had a doctor's appointment, or failing to notice when you seem down or anxious. It's almost as if they've turned down the volume on your presence in their life, focusing only on themselves or external commitments. And the more these small decisions add up, the clearer it becomes that they've distanced themselves from caring about how your day goes or how a plan might impact you. Many times these actions aren't done with open hostility, which can make them harder to call out. Instead, they're carried out under the veil of casual indifference, driving home the message that you aren't a priority anymore. If this resonates, take a moment to consider if you've tried explaining how it makes you feel. Sometimes the other person is simply wrapped up in a personal crisis or struggling with issues they haven't shared. But if they dismiss your concerns again and again, or if their interest in your comfort seems to vanish despite your efforts to reconnect, it might be a sign that their emotional roots are loosening. That's when you must decide whether to keep reaching out or protect your own emotional well-being by stepping back. Another telltale sign is a noticeable lack of excitement or enthusiasm When you initiate something that used to be shared territory, like suggesting a favorite restaurant, a scenic drive, or even a classic movie night you both used to adore. Where before they might have responded with a smile or a, "That sounds great," now you might be greeted with a half-hearted nod or a vague, "I guess so," if you want. The sparkle that once accompanied these joint activities fades into something mechanical or worse, reluctant. This can be particularly painful if you've spent years building traditions together. Maybe every Sunday afternoon meant a drive through the countryside, or every Thursday you tried a new recipe in the kitchen. If that excitement withers, the activities you once cherished begin to feel like burdens to them, and you can sense it in the sighs or the distracted glances at their phone. Sometimes they'll say yes out of habit but act distant the entire time, leaving you to wonder why they bothered agreeing at all. Observing such a decline can make you question your own worth. You might think, "Have I become boring? Is my presence no longer uplifting?" But the truth is, these changes might speak more about their internal state than about you. People often pull away and lose enthusiasm when they're grappling with doubt or disinterest in the relationship overall. The challenge for you is to notice whether this pattern is consistent. An off day or a bad mood doesn't necessarily mean they're emotionally gone. But if the spark has been missing for weeks or months, and your attempts at rekindling it go unacknowledged, then it's fair to suspect something deeper has shifted. And once again, it's crucial not to jump to accusations without an open dialogue. Asking them calmly, "I've noticed you don't seem as happy doing these things together lately. Is something bothering you?" can sometimes reveal an explanation that has little to do with a loss of love. Other times it confirms your suspicions that they're detaching from you. While it might hurt to hear, clarity is often less painful than the agony of guessing. And clarity sets the stage for you to make choices about how to preserve your own emotional health, and whether it's worth seeking counseling, a heartfelt talk, or a gentle farewell to a bond that no longer seems to serve you both. If you're noticing these patterns in someone you cherish, you may feel a swirl of dread, anger, or sorrow. That's normal. It's okay to acknowledge how it affects you. In fact, doing so is a crucial part of navigating what comes next. You can't change someone else's feelings, but you can request honesty, respect, and if possible, a willingness to address the issues head-on. And if your partner or loved one isn't open to that, you can give yourself permission to step away from the cycle of uncertainty. Because your time, particularly in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, is too precious to be spent chasing after someone's fading affection if they're not willing to meet you halfway. Losing that mutual spark can be heartbreaking, especially when you've tied so much of your identity and routine to this person. But the silver lining is that you now have the chance to refocus on what you truly need. Sometimes a relationship that crumbles sets the stage for a deeper relationship with yourself, your own interests, your own dreams, and the people who do want to share them with you. And it's never too late in life to rediscover a sense of wholeness, with or without the person who once seemed inseparable from your story. Having explored how a lack of consideration in decision-making and a loss of excitement are strong indicators of emotional distancing, we can move forward to examine even more subtle yet telling behaviors. The next signs might provide further clarity on where your relationship stands, and possibly offer the courage to face the truth, whatever that truth may be. Sometimes the most painful kind of withdrawal is the kind we can't easily label. It's not one incident or a single argument. It's a slow unraveling that creeps in until the relationship you once recognized feels foreign. By the time you realize how much has changed, you may already be questioning everything: your worth, your role, and even your grasp on the shared history you both hold. And now comes another sign that can hurt deeply when it becomes clear. The person who once looked toward the future with you by their side now avoids or outright refuses making any plans that involve both of you down the road. Even small mentions of us in a future tense, like "we should visit your cousin next month" or Should we plant a garden for the spring? Are met with lukewarm responses or worse, silence and an abrupt change of topic. If you try to gently pull them into a conversation about the next holiday, the next special outing, or even the next phase of retirement, they might dismiss it as irrelevant, act bored, or shrug with indifference. Their energy almost telegraphs, "Don't count on me." When love is alive, the future, whether it's 5 years or 5 days ahead, feels like a shared canvas, and the act of planning is part of the bond. But when that connection fades, future talk can become a trigger for them, reminding them of responsibilities or closeness they're no longer interested in cultivating. It might show up in phrases like, "I don't know where I'll be then," or "I might have other things going on." On the surface, these responses can sound casual, but if they keep popping up whenever you hint at doing something as a duo, it can signal their heart has shifted away from a vision of life that includes you. And without that shared vision, you may feel adrift, like someone who's eager to build something while the other person has already walked away from the blueprint. This dynamic often intertwines with the earlier signs: shorter conversations, a reluctance to be fully present, and a disregard for your feelings. If you try to address it, you might hear them say, "Why do we need to plan everything? Let's just go with the flow." But the tone behind it can be a quiet push to keep you at arm's length. Of course, some individuals genuinely prefer spontaneity, but there's a difference between playful spontaneity and a consistent, almost stubborn refusal to imagine a joint life in the simplest sense. If you keep sensing a wall whenever you bring up us in any future context, however near or far, it may reflect a deeper emotional distance that can't be bridged by superficial fixes. Sometimes people don't realize they're causing hurt by withdrawing from future plans. They might be grappling with issues like personal grief, health concerns, or financial worries that make the future feel uncertain. But if they won't let you in on those struggles, if they continually lock you out of any forward-thinking discussion, that, too, can speak volumes about whether they still view you as a supportive partner or friend in the journey ahead. It can help to ask if something else is going on. A compassionate yet direct question: "You seem reluctant to talk about next month or next year. Is there a reason?" may open a door to clarity if they're willing to share. If not, you might face the bittersweet truth that they're choosing to plan their life without you. Watching someone you love put you on the sidelines of the future can trigger a wave of emotions. Anger that they're making decisions as if you don't exist, sadness at the lost closeness, or fear that you might be forced to handle big life choices on your own. Yet within that painful realization lies a quiet moment of empowerment. When a person repeatedly signals they don't want you by their side, you can decide to fill that space with pursuits, dreams, and relationships that wholeheartedly welcome you. It's not about giving up on the possibility of reconciliation, but about recognizing you have the right to a life enriched by genuine participation and shared goals. For some, the decision might be to have one last heart-to-heart conversation, a calm but candid talk, outlining how their disinterest in mutual plans affects you. Maybe they'll open up about hidden worries or regrets. Or maybe you'll discover this rift is too wide to mend. If they refuse to budge or dismiss your feelings, it can free you to pivot your time and energy toward what heals and uplifts you. This isn't an easy choice. Especially in your later years, you might prefer stability over the unknown. But the unknown sometimes holds a surprising sense of peace, especially if the known reality has devolved into a space where you feel emotionally neglected. No matter what, it's never a failure to recognize a partner's detachment and choose to do something about it. The real heartbreak is staying stuck in the cycle of illusions, hoping for change when the other person's every action says, "I'm already gone." Giving yourself permission to let go of the illusions, and potentially let go of them, can lead to new beginnings you never thought possible. It might even pave the way for a calmer relationship with that person, if they do decide to respect your need for clarity. And if this resonates with you, take a moment to breathe. Grief and relief often intertwine when love fades. You may grieve the shared dreams you once cherished, but relief can come from stepping off the emotional roller coaster of guessing and hoping. Your value does not diminish just because someone no longer sees it. You carry decades of insights, experiences, and strengths that can light up your path, with or without their validation. We've now touched on 5 signs that someone's love might be slipping away. Changes in communication, physical or emotional. Absence, disregard for your feelings, lost enthusiasm for shared activities, and a refusal to plan a future together. If you recognize these patterns, you deserve the truth about what's left between you, and you deserve the freedom to chart a course that nurtures your spirit and fosters connections that reciprocate the love and respect you offer. The question is, what do you do with this knowledge now that you see these signs more clearly?